Okay, hello. I believe we are live, hopefully. So, welcome, guys. Thank you so much for coming. Today, we're going to be looking at boxes, which, um, you know, it's not the most glamorous drawing topic, but you know what's really, really cool is they help us to do the drawings that we really, really want to do, the drawings that we dream of doing. And so that is cool and glamorous. So we just got to do this kind of work to get to that goal. And we're going to make it fun today. We're going to draw hands with boxes and we're going to draw a snake. We're going to draw a snake, or we're going to try to. And we are going to draw, well, we're also going to learn just how to draw boxes. So, hello everyone. Hi Helen. Hi Francesca. Hi Paul. Hello, this is Radom, or maybe Random, misspelled, I'm not sure. Hi Sylvan. It is so cool to be with all of you guys today. I think it's really cool if we can start drawing like early on. So hopefully you guys have your materials ready and we can just start drawing some boxes. And we're going to talk about boxes first, and later we're going to get to the snake and then some hands. And while you guys just drawing some random boxes, when you're drawing these, they don't have to be perfect because we're going to learn how to do the boxes. That's the first thing we're going to learn. But try and draw all the edges, even the ones you can't see, and then you can like make it clear which ones are at the front by making those lines a little bit stronger. And I thought it'd be a good idea to do a load of push-ups before the session for some reason, and now my hand's a bit shaky. So so yeah, just warming up with boxes. And one of the things I wanted to say is maybe we don't need to think about this as think of these as boxes. Let's think of these as the three dimensions of space and reality, because that's what it is. It's the simplest sort of representation of a form in 3 dimensions. And that's why we do this. We don't do it because boxes are cool. We do it because 3 dimensions on 2D, like that's a 3D form in 2D, and that illusion is cool. And that's what we want to bring to our drawings. So this isn't a box practice. It's not box. It's 3D practice. And that's what we're going to be working on today. So yeah, I hope you guys have been well. I've been looking forward to doing this with you guys, same as every week. I had Donald says, dad and daughter watching together. Oh, that's brilliant. I spent the day with my daughter today, and I I thought it'd be cool to there's these little spiky things on plants at the park. I thought it'd be fun to stick them to our t-shirts, and it turned out that was a huge mistake, and she ended up really itchy, and yeah, I won't be making that mistake again. So I had there's so many different ways to kind of think of how to draw a box. And I'm not a box expert, and there are box experts out there. And I'm going to add some links to some, oh, that's a terrible box. I'm going to add some links to some videos. I was supposed to add them before, but I forgot. Add some links to some videos about drawing boxes after the session to the description. But I got an email from one of our email subscribers called, I think it was James Farrand, and he has a cool method that I want to tell you guys about. And then there's Draw a Box, which is a good website about drawing boxes. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up to you guys is when we draw our boxes. So I've got some wonky boxes here. I've got an okay box. When we draw our boxes, we can test our boxes out. So if I bring up these 2 boxes, you see those 2 boxes? Can you guys see that one of those looks good and one of those looks a little bit funny, these boxes that I've drawn before the session? Can you guys see that? And then which one, maybe type into the chat which one looks wonky, and then maybe if you guys can figure out why do you think that one of them looks wonky? If you can type that in the chat, and let's just say that the wonky boxes that I drew here I did on purpose so that I can show you guys some mistakes with boxes. So I think that the live stream isn't like super lower one, right? Okay, now they're coming through. Bottom one looks off, and why, guys? Why does the bottom one look off? I can imagine drawing that bottom one because the lines aren't converging exactly, and it's hard sometimes to see it when the lines are that short. And so a good thing to do is to extend those lines a little bit, extend them a little bit further, and then you can really clearly and more easily see. And you can do that with your own boxes too, like if you extend the lines. And this is something that website I mentioned, Draw a Box, suggests, is to extend the lines that are going away from you. And so extend them, maybe extend them more than what I'm doing, and see, like, do they look like they're going to converge to a similar vanishing point? Like maybe that one I didn't get quite right, you know? And this one's all kinds of wonky, and extending the lines is probably going to help us to see where it's going wonky. And so that's something that you guys can do with your own boxes. So like here, oh, no, those are going the wrong way. You've got to do them going away from you. And this diagram that I've got on the right here, it kind of also brings us to a nice method by this guy who I'm going to link to later, called James Farrand, who has a nice system for drawing a box, which is, well, I mean, firstly, you've got like a box where you're just looking straight at it, so you can only see one plane, right? And then you might have a box where you've got 2 planes visible. I think things get more tricky when you can see 3 planes visible. So let's say you can say 3 planes visible. That means one of those points, one of those corner points on the box is going to be closest to you. So that's what you start with. You always think about what's the point of the box that's closest to you. And from there, you're going to have 3 lines that come out from that point, right? So you're going to have your 3 lines coming out. And one thing to note about these lines is that none of these angles should be less than 90 degrees. So these lines that come out are going to be what James refers to as your team captains. So you've got your starting point is the point closest to you, and these lines are all going away from you in the direction of these arrows. And then you're going to have additional lines that are like the extra team members, and they're going to converge towards their team captain. So the line that's going to come down here is going to converge towards that team captain. So it's just going to converge, often maybe a bit more gently than you might imagine, I think. So here it's like, what angle should this line be? Well, there's the team captain. I want to do it on an angle that's just gently converging towards that one, right? And so there you have a nice box. So you think about the point closest to you, 3 points coming out, going away from you because that point is closest to you. And then each of these lines coming out has these team members on each side that converge towards it a little bit. Now, the only thing about this with the 3 lines is it's useful to practice all the edges, even the ones that you can't see. So you could, but then again, all it has to do is also kind of go towards that team captain as well. But you just want those lines that you wouldn't be able to see drawn in somehow, maybe real lightly. But if you know, sometimes you need to draw a box where it's only the visible lines. So you get the point closest to you. You got some angles on that. None of these angles should be less than 90 degrees. You just got to figure out like how big you want that box to be. All these are going away from you because that's the closest point. And then each one has 2 team members that go towards it. So that's the team captain. And then this is the team member going towards the captain. And it's just gonna, like here, I'm like, which way should this line go? Well, there's the team captain. And it's just gonna go gently towards that team captain. And you know, the less of that plane that you can see, if it's we're looking at it from a sharp angle and we can't see much of it, it's going to converge more, you know, more strongly. So like if it was a box like where this plane, we can see a lot of this side and we can see a reasonable amount of the top, but this side here, we can't see much. The lines of convergence might be stronger, you know? And I really like that as a simple analogy to remember. So I hope that that's useful to you guys too. So that's 2 things. One from Draw a Box is to draw boxes and test your boxes by extending the lines. And the second thing is to think about the point closest to you, the 3 captains, and the team members going towards it. So I hope that that helps you guys out a little bit. It's helpful for me. I know it sounds really simple, but I mean, you saw me draw some really wonky boxes before. Like often I'm drawing a box and I'm like, oh, why doesn't that look, and I'm like, why doesn't that box look quite right? And it's because look, I've got this line and this line going away from me and they're not converging. And it's like, if I had just thought about that's the point closest to me, so this is the team member, it needs to go towards the team captain. It just keeps reminding you like what's going away from you. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to do, I was going to go through the whole thing, like, the vanishing points and drawing a box that way, but I feel like that's been, that's so easy to find that information and stuff. So we're not going to cover that today. Okay. We're just doing this kind of more practical stuff. Like you can do kind of in the moment of a drawing, think about in the moment of a drawing. So now it's time to draw this snake. And the reason I picked this snake is like, you wouldn't think of a box for a snake. But it's actually helpful to think of a box. And if you think back to what I said at the beginning, a box is really just those 3 dimensions of form in its simplest form, like 3 dimensions, 1, 2, 3 in their simplest form. So all it really tells us is like the orientation of the form in 3D space. And a snake is a cool way to practice, I think, because you can see that form the orientation of it keeps changing in 3D space. So we can do a series of boxes. So I've drawn on a load of boxes on here. Hope you can see those. So what I've got is like, if you see, I'll draw on the iPad. Wait. Oh yeah. So I've got the actual boxes in, I've got the actual boxes in a sort of, in a sort of darker orange, and then just some like more flexible forms to link them together. So these are like, these curvy bits are more flexible, but then I've got some actual boxes which is like our focus, because these boxes are just where like we're thinking at this point, if I average out this form, it's basically oriented like this box. So I'm just drawing right on the snake here. So there's these boxes, with the orange lines. So at this point of the snake, the 3D form of the snake, I can simplify and average down to that box. So that's the idea. We're going to try and draw this snake. Francesca says a snake is but a long box. Yeah, long, scary box. Okay. So let's do it. Let's just try and draw these boxes. Focus on the boxes, not on the snake. And you know what's, if you've been drawing figures for a while. Okay, so by the way, you can see the dotted lines are lines that you wouldn't see. It's up to you whether you draw them in, but if you draw them in, try to sort of make them not as strong somehow as the line. You know, that these dotted lines are ones that you wouldn't see. So like that. And you can just draw them a little bit lighter maybe, and then have the actual box lines that you would see a little bit stronger. Or you can just leave them out if you want your drawing to be a bit sort of clearer, you know. And by the way, I think doing this, if you've got like a tablet or something, you know, to draw with digitally, doing this exercise of making this snake, like putting the boxes on it, I think was really beneficial for me, just to think about these boxes. And it's not like there's a right answer or anything, but I would recommend that exercise. Oops, I'm not doing too good here. So yeah, if you just arrived, we are drawing the boxes on this snake. Don't worry about the snake, just think about the boxes. And boxes are wonderful because they are they are the 3 dimensions of reality. You know, I was thinking, so basically we put our daughter down to sleep, and every night she's 2 and she's learning to talk. She's learning lots of different words, and every night she practices the words that she learned. So today's word was temperature, and she's just, as she's going to sleep, she's going temperature, 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 over and over and over again. And it really got me thinking about how a lot of the stuff that we have to learn to draw is stuff that we learned when we were like 2 years old, and we've never ever thought about again since. You know, like the shapes of things, or the categories that things fall in, and what colors are, like what's orange and what's blue, and just real simple stuff like that. We've learned a lot of stuff when we're little kids, like 3 to 5, like an eye is an oval with a circle in it. And, you know, like an eye looks like this, you know? And then in reality, you know, from some angles, an eye just kind of looks like, I don't know, like that or something. And we have to learn to re-see stuff that we learned when we were toddlers and that we've never thought about again. And it's the way that they learn stuff is by just by repetition and experimentation. And so like it's totally different to learning something like, oh, I was using an Android phone and now I'm using an Apple phone or whatever. That's stuff that we learned to do as adults, and so learning new things in that regard is easy. But learning stuff that you learned as a toddler, the only way to do it is to learn it again like a toddler would. So repeating, lots of repetition and lots of experimentation and seeing how it works, you know? So just having that mindset, like I need to revisit how I perceive reality from scratch again, just like a toddler does. And they just do so much repetition and they don't get tired of repetition. And that's what we need to do. So how are you guys getting on with these boxes? Hopefully, like thinking about this snake in terms of, because like if I just, maybe later we can take away those boxes and just try and draw these things and see, like it's a lot easier to give it form when we use these boxes, right? Now in reality, like you wouldn't maybe want to draw it as a series of boxes, but you could subtly hint at these 3 dimensions with how you place your shadow shapes and which scales you emphasize even. You know, you're drawing the scales of the snake, you could emphasize the scales on the corner of these planes and just subtly give your viewer this sense of 3 dimensions in the snake. Right. I'm going to get into the comments because I'm just blabbering.
It's two questions.
Oh, 2 questions, says my wife.
Sorabai.
Yeah.
Didn't you in your other video say that when drawing figures and other curved natural things, you shouldn't draw it as a box? Like curves and figures. They're saying in your other video, didn't you say not to draw boxes?
I think I have said that in terms of like, especially with the rib cage.
Maybe repeat what I've said.
So Lucy's saying the question is, haven't I said it's better not to draw things as boxes when they're curved forms? Which I'm not sure, but I think I have said that for rib cages, it's it's easier to start with learning the actual form of the rib cage and then finding that in the figure than to start by learning to find like a box or whatever people say and find that in the figure. And the reason for that is at least the rib cage shape is actually there. So it's easier to learn the shape of the rib cage and see it in the figure than learn that even though a box is simpler, it's hard to see the box in the upper torso because it's not there and the rib cage is there. But that's why I think complex is easier than simple. So it's easier to start, let's say this is complex and that's simple and the figure is complex. It's easier to start from the reality and draw the reality, but then you should learn to increasingly simplify that reality. And so this is like experience. I think a lot of people teach life drawing like you start simple, so you learn gesture drawing and cylinders and cubes, and you draw figures in terms. You learn gesture, and you learn cylinders and cubes, and then you kind of build on more sophisticated forms like anatomy from there. I don't think it works like that. I think it starts with the complicated. You draw what you see with all the complexity, and then you learn to simplify it. And that includes learning gesture. So the gesture stuff and the cubes and the boxes stuff comes when you've got that experience. And then you keep doing that for a while and getting good with that. And then it goes like this, where you can build on more sophistication again onto the simple, but you also need to keep practicing the simple as well. So you need to kind of do all of it. So the graph looks like this. You start with all the complexity of the figure, and then you learn to simplify over time, and it takes time to learn the gestural curves. That's not a beginner thing. And seeing boxes and stuff is not. That's why we put out that video recently, baby steps towards seeing the boxes. And that's what this live stream's about. It's just trying to get to this, and then from there you can then build on more complexity, or you can keep practicing simple. You should always keep practicing simple, but that's what the graph looks like, in my opinion. Okay. Another question. Acid boards. I don't know.
No. So that's the name.
Oh right. Okay. That's like
a complex question. So maybe.
Okay. Where is it?
There.
So that's a good question. When applying boxes to figure drawing, what is more important, the box integrity and staying in perspective, or the gesture of the figure? Yeah, that's a great question. So you can draw like, okay, so let's say the torso is all twisted. You could either choose to ignore the twisting and keep that box of the rib cage as a straightforward box with parallel lines, or you could sort of do whatever, like add in some of the twisting of that form, and kind of twist your box. I think it's good to practice both. And the reason that I think it's good to practice both is this kind of marries the two. So this is like you're thinking about the gesture and the 3D form. So that's cool. And I like this idea because it forces you to make decisions. What is the overall orientation of that rib cage? And it really forces you to cut through detail. Like this one, you kind of allow yourself all these nuances, and this one, you really push yourself. And it's going to end up kind of gestural anyway, because if the figure's twisting, then there's going to be one box like that, and then there's going to be another box for the pelvis over here. Maybe not that crazy, but it's going to be there's going to be a difference between the rib cage box and the pelvis box, and that's a big part of the gesture. So even if it's a boring old box, having two boxes, so like that is a boring old box, but then having another box over here for the pelvis, and now we have a gesture. So I think do both. And another thing is, the thing about the twisting and stuff is so much of it's from the shoulder structure. So the top of the torso, it can like bend forward and back and do all kinds of stuff from the shoulder structure, the shoulder girdle. But the rib cage isn't twisting as much. And so being able to see past what the shoulders are doing to just the form of the rib cage and then add the shoulder stuff on later is cool. Okay. Mark says, I'm late, can you start again? Yeah, sorry, I might be getting too deep into some of this stuff, but there will be a replay. We are going to move on from the snake, guys, if that's all right. Okay. Yeah, so Kev says it's hard to see the boxes until they were seeing them superimposed. That's why I think it's a good exercise to like get these pictures and draw the boxes on top of them, maybe with a tablet or something. And then you just kind of trying to find this stuff. It's a great exercise. Right, so we're going to move on to this hand. I'm going to add some boxes that I added. And like, these aren't the correct boxes at all. These are probably the wrong boxes. But these are some boxes that we can find in this hand. So we're going to draw these boxes, and then we're going to draw the hand on as well. So we're just going to think about the boxes and then draw the sort of hand within and around those boxes. So why did I choose these boxes? And like I say, I'm sure there's people more versed in construction who might choose different ones. These are not standard boxes. If you're going to think of standard boxes of the hand, it'd be like a sort of curved wedge box for the palm section. Probably a cylinder, or maybe boxes for each of these sections of the thick knuckle, and maybe a ball for each knuckle, and and then that would be maybe a sort of triangular wedge on the side of the main wedge here, and this would be a sort of standard sort of set of simple forms for a hand. And that's not what I'm doing here. What I've done on here is just looked for boxes that happen to come up from that hand pose, not a standard set of boxes. So it's based on observation of that hand. So like if I've got this, it's like those are making a box. If I've got, I don't know what, like that, this is a box now. Not because it's a standard thing I've memorized, but because I'm looking at that hand. You can do it either way. I'm not saying one way is better than the other, but we're doing it this way for this one. Okay, so let's just try and draw these. See what happens. I hope you guys are doing good out there. And practicing drawing a ton. I keep talking about my daughter, so it's because I spend, like, on Wednesdays I've spent all day with her, but she's starting to draw stuff, which is exciting for me. I mean, and I'm like, oh, maybe I can. She's a clean slate. Like, we talk about these symbols that people learn, like the circle in the oval and everything. And it's like, well, I have this opportunity to never put those symbols in her head about how to draw things, and I'm going to teach her how to see and draw actual reality, so that she never has to break down those symbols. And it's like, I just think that's probably really unrealistic. I think you have to learn those symbols to make any sense of drawing or reality first, and then you can later on, you can learn to break them down. So I did have that idea. I don't know if anyone's ever done that. Like, avoided the symbol stage of learning to draw entirely. Okay. Sorry, the audio's still working. I'm just kind of concentrating on it. So I think what I'll do is get my brush pen, just going to make a thicker line and just find the actual hand within this. Normally, I wouldn't draw hands like this with a load of boxes, but for this exercise, I think it's great. And the nice thing about hands is you've always got one to draw from life, hopefully. And there's a lot of boxes in different hand poses that you can find. There's also cylinders. So it's excellent. I mean, hands are incredible in their versatility for creating different shapes. So definitely, if you do sketching and stuff, I'd say try and put a sketch of your own hand in the sessions when you can. Okay, we've got a hand with some boxes. Picasso said he never had a symbol phase. I've seen some stuff by him when he was like 10, and it's incredible. So I believe that. Parting Mist says, I think you need symbols too. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, you need to have an understanding of those symbols and then move beyond them rather than avoid them completely. Okay, have you ever read Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, says Lee? No, I have talked about it in a video, but I haven't. I've looked at the exercises, the actual exercises, but I haven't read the whole thing. Kev says, the team leader stuff you mentioned is really helping me here. Cool, yeah, that's, like I said, I always want to give credit. That's from someone called James Farron, and I'll add the link to the description after the video. Sorabai says, I don't think you can do that. We all have to pass through it. Yeah, I think you're right. Adelaide says, I got to go to bed. No problem. Thanks for joining. Roger says, the thumb in the picture also makes a triangle wedge. Yeah, the thumb itself, right? That's true. That's true. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention is like, what we kind of done here is combine a sort of construction idea and an observation idea. If you saw that video we put out, construction and observation, because we got some stuff which we use boxes for, but then we got other shapes where I'll just draw on the reference over here. Like for this shape, this shape here, I just tried to find an abstract shape. I didn't think about a 3D form and drew that abstract shape. That's more, observational thinking, the kind of stuff that you would learn in that Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain book. And here too. Just try to see that 2D abstract shape and draw that. And actually for the whole thumb as well. That's how I drew it. And actually sometimes that's just how I draw the whole thing. But the reason I say that is I just think it'd be really hard to construct this entire thing, including the stuff that, you know, including the palm section of the hand, which is all covered up by the thumb and the fingers and everything, with these 3D forms. I feel like the 3D forms are easy to see in these places that I've added them. But when something's like exactly side on, I find it, I'm not sure how useful it is personally to, like, let's say I'm drawing this finger, it's just completely side on. You know, I was saying earlier, like a box just straight from the side is just, it just looks like a rectangle. Like it doesn't help to think of that in 3D because you know, unless you kind of draw the lines you can't see. But I would just draw that based on almost like a 2D shape because it's just side on. It kind of is a 2D shape to me. It's clearly 3D when you can see it from an angle, because here I've got 1 dimension, you know, 2 dimensions, 3 dimensions, and now it's clear. It's the same with a cylinder. Like the cylinder straight from the side, how do you know that's a cylinder? You got to see it from an angle to know that that thing's a cylinder, right? So it's like just use, that's why it's tools from a toolbox, you know. I think it's someone called Glenn Vilppu who says tools not rules, which I thought I made up. But turns out I think he made it up. And it's probably one of those things, like often I'll hum a song to my wife or something, and I'm like, I think I just wrote that song. And then it's like, no, that's an old song that you heard when you were a kid and you thought you wrote it. Oh, sorry, I just got rid of that. You guys might still have been drawing that one. I'll bring it back and then give you guys a minute to finish. So yeah, like Glenn Vilppu says, tools, not rules. Okay. So Peter says, I'm a 3D artist and I feel like I'm learning all the art fundamentals in 3D rather than 2D, which I think is kind of backwards, but then again, it makes more sense to me. That's interesting. You know, I saw a video, Peter, from someone, I think it's Jan Sculpt or something, and he said that often 3D artists don't actually have to learn that much about perspective and stuff because the software does it for them. So I don't know if that was your experience. Tim says, I had an easier time on your other hand vid, but I get your point on this one. Yeah, Tim, this one's not a hand video. This isn't how I'm suggesting you guys draw hands. This is a finding boxes in stuff video. So drawing hands is hard, and don't worry if your drawing comes out wonky, because this is more about just thinking about finding boxes and stuff, or more importantly, thinking about simple 3D forms. A bit off topic, which software or app you're using to stream Procreate? I use a software called Ecamm Live, which lets me stream my iPad. Okay. Hands are interesting, don't like snakes. Yeah, fair enough. But snakes are really cool for this because they're just 3D forms going in every which direction. Okay, we're going to move on to the next hand, guys. Okay, this one's a bit harder, I think. Now, when we do this one, we are drawing these boxes, and it's a foreshortened hand. Anytime you try and draw something foreshortened like that, you're going to try and draw it like more straight on. It's just one of the many silly things our brains do. So we're going to be careful to not extend that palm. You see that pink box? You're going to want to draw that like it's more like that, like draw it wider. keep it narrow. Keep that box narrow. Okay? Watch as I just totally messed that up myself, having told you guys that. But you got to try and keep that box narrow, guys. What I mean is, like, I'm going to draw on it. Don't make this wider than it is. That's going to be the temptation, I think. Okay. That's just what happens every single time you draw something foreshortened, or I do anyway. I end up going, okay, it's foreshortened. I'm not going to elongate it. And then I do. Okay. You notice I get kind of quiet when doing these because I feel like these boxes need a lot of concentration. Okay. Oops. Okay. Actually, you know what? I think I made that thing too wide. I massively did. I just told you guys I would. And I did. Look how wide that is. That is very silly. I'm going to just chop it off there. It's going to be kind of messy, but isn't that funny? I told you guys that that would be the problem. I said that I would do it anyway. And in my head, I was like, I'm not really, though. I'm not going to make that mistake. And then I did. Silly brain. I might do this one again just because that is really annoying to do that. And I want to teach my brain a lesson to not do that. Isn't it amazing? I mean, I see really amazing artists and they're drawing something foreshortened and even they like succumb to that thing. It's crazy. Yes. It's kind of a mess. I might do that one again. Okay. Got time, right? Okay. So Peter says, so I think what you're telling us is, okay, yeah, that's a good question. The idea is to find boxes where you can and where they help, but not everywhere. Yeah, that is a good question. I think what I'm really suggesting is that this is an exercise rather than a way to draw, in my opinion anyway, just in my opinion, for drawing figures. So I'm not suggesting that you guys draw figures with boxes. I'm presenting this as an exercise just to think in 3D. And the box forces you to just think in 3 simple dimensions because that's what a box is. So when you can simplify complicated forms into just boxes, it trains you. It trains your eyes that way, right? And the reason that I'm saying just find those boxes in useful, I think there's 2 ways to do it. There's like having a standard set of boxes, which I think is good. Like you turn the hand into a sort of box for the palm section, and then you have a triangular 3D shape that comes off it for the thumb, and then maybe you have some spheres and the knuckles and some cylinders, for the fingers and stuff. Having that, doing it in that standard way is useful, I think. And then being more opportunistic about it and just finding boxes where you can is also useful. So there's 2 different exercises. And then when you come to draw, the point isn't that you then use these boxes and stuff. It's that you've done that hard practice and now you're simplifying and seeing things in the three-dimensional eye has been trained. So that's what I'm suggesting. And I think some people would suggest that drawing with boxes is bad because it stiffens you up. And I think your practice on this exercise, the drawings might be a bit stiff. But then that's why I'm saying you don't need to draw like that all the time. It's just an exercise. And then when you're not sure, like, why isn't my drawing working? Sometimes thinking about it in terms of a box can help you understand it. And then when you're doing like a foreshortened tricky pose, then using a box or a cylinder or something is going to help for sure. So it's a tool for dealing with foreshortening in a real drawing. But outside of that, in my opinion, it's a really powerful and useful exercise to train your brain to think in 3D. So that's what I think it is. And it's taken me a while to get to that conclusion. And it's one of the reasons why we're only doing this after running Love Life Drawing for a number of years. We always knew that gesture was going to be the heart of Love Life Drawing, because gesture is fun and gesture brings life and energy, and that's what we love in figure drawings. And gesture is like the heart of figure drawing for us, whereas this stuff isn't, in my opinion. But it really is a powerful exercise to get you to think in 3D. If you hate it, it's not a necessity. So that's good news, right? Like if you're doing this live stream with me and you hate it, and you absolutely hate it, so you just don't want to do it ever again, the good news is you don't have to. Like my mum doesn't do this stuff, or hasn't. And in my opinion, she is really, really fantastic at life drawing. So, and I know loads of people who don't really like this. Well, maybe not loads, but quite a few who don't really like this, and I really like the way they draw. So it's not a necessity if you're not enjoying it, you know. But if you do, or if you think it's cool but you find it a bit hard, I would really encourage you to do it, because it's really good training. So I guess my question to you guys is, how do you find it doing this with me? Like, is it fun or a struggle? Do you wish we were doing something else? We're going to do something else next week, I promise. Yeah, how do you guys find it? All this box stuff we've been doing. Is it really not what you got into life drawing for and too analytical? Or is it like, okay, this is helping illuminate some things for me? I kind of heard that you're supposed to do this, but I struggled with it, wasn't sure how, and now it's kind of making some sense. Like, how are you finding it? Fun. Okay. That's cool. That was my goal for today. I'm really glad. Okay, I'm going to check in on the comments. I love trying to understand the form, says Parting Mist. Yeah, it gets more, it's kind of hard, but it helps me develop my sense of spatial awareness. That's exactly it. And it's, it can seem kind of, I don't know, to me it seems kind of dull, like, okay, it's a box. But then when you sort of see a drawing that like jumps off the page in those 3 dimensions, it feels cool. Hey, look, I drew a box here. It's not quite right. Why? If I extend the lines, it's like those there's the center point. These are the team captains. These lines going away. This team member's not quite with their team captain. It just needs to come in a little bit more. So I do like that analogy. Hager says, I've always wanted to practice drawing boxes, but have been hesitating. I need to learn perspective first. So taking it as a way to learn perspective, yeah, boxes are a great way to learn to draw perspective, because boxes are the simplest sort of expression of perspective. Oh, Roberta says, I managed to do the foreshortening, but I had to focus quite a bit. But I was successful. That's awesome. Yeah, that is really cool. So Sylvan says, if I understood correctly, we don't even have to draw the box, but simplify what we're looking at in box forms. So I think for the exercise, you draw stuff, like you draw the box for the exercise. And that's going to train your eye, even when you're not thinking about boxes, to see things in their 3 dimensions. That's my idea anyway. And regularly practicing drawing figures in this way, either in this way or, you know, some kind of construction type way, it's going to help you to get that 3D sense of the forms of the figure. And then you'll bring that, you'll be using that even when you're doing your crazy like gestural curves and stuff. You're going to have this sense of the 3D forms that you're looking at. So, okay. I feel like we have worked hard, guys. We've worked hard, and we've still got 10 minutes, which I didn't think we would actually have by the end of these hands. So we should do something fun for the last 10 minutes. Oh, look, there's some scribbles. Scribbles by my artistic daughter, who's 2. Okay, so what we could do, I like this game, so I'm going to do a scribble just like this, or maybe we could, I don't know if we can use these scribbles. They're so complex. But I will be inspired by my daughter's scribble here. I'm going to do a random shape. So that's that bit of that. And then you guys draw that too, okay? And we're going to make a figure from our imaginations out of that shape for the last 10 minutes. No more boxes for this session, because we've done boxes and we've worked hard. So there's the shape, guys. You copy that down, and then you make a figure from it. I'm waffling because I'm trying to figure out how to turn this thing into a figure. And okay. This is a good game. I think a simple shape like that, it should be easy to... I love this game, but I'm drawing a blank. Okay, yeah. Oh man, okay. I think I messed that up. Okay. Is that gonna... Oh man. What should his other arm be doing? Just some weird pose. Does that... I mean, his leg it looks really weird. All right. Hey?
Everyone thought it looked like a shark.
It looked like a... yeah, I should... You've got to draw a figure, though.
No, they said
Oh, it can be a shark if you want, but come on, that turning into a shark, that's too easy, guys. You got to turn it into a figure. If I said this and then turn that into a shark, now that's a challenge. Okay, so let's try and draw this as a shark. Does a shark have fins on the sides and the top, or the bottom? Definitely on the top, right? Because that's the thing that sticks out the water.
Yeah.
This looks more like an evil dolphin. Okay. Give him a basketball. Aha. Slam dunk contest. Slam dunk contests are one of the things I watch on YouTube to relax. Because I don't do slam dunks. I find if I watch like art stuff, I'm like, oh my god, I should learn this. You know, it's not relaxing enough to watch art stuff. So I watch stuff that I will never be able to do. Okay. We got 4 minutes, so how about we do one more? So I've got another scribble here, which is basically, it's like that and like that, isn't it? So we'll try and turn that into a figure somehow. It's like a little cross. Okay, so what on the figure could that be? You guys copy that down. And we got to turn this into a figure. Huh. A little cross like that. Maybe like... Maybe that's going to be the foot kind of extent. Yeah. Ooh, it's not going to work. Oops. Oh dear. I was going to do a football player, like to continue the basketball theme. I don't think that's going to work. What does a football player do? All right, I'm going to try that one again. Okay, so it was a line and then like that. Okay. Man, this challenge is... I should cheat and pre-prepare these. This challenge is hard, huh? Roberta says crossed legs. Okay. Crossed legs, like that's a leg tucking in. Ah, okay. Does that work? What if it was like that's the foot and this person is doing one of these, you know, like a really flexible person, and they're like, they're kind of bent back, they've bent, you know, they're stretching out their quads or something. Man, I should have ended this live stream before I... Okay, and then... Nah, it's not working. Maybe it kind of does. Two arms spreading. Let's try it. Okay, I've got 1 minute. So 2 arms spreading and a neck. Okay, 2 arms spreading and a neck. How? 2 arms spreading and a neck. So that's the neck. That's Francesca's idea. Okay, so still with someone's, I think, still talking. Roberta with the crossed legs is still saying with the knees at the ends, like that, I think. right? And then how do crossed, and like we're looking down on them, so maybe that's the top of their head and their shoulders. Roberta, you've had a great idea and you've tried to help me, but I'm just not getting this one. You guys succeeding? Contortionist, says Leon. Yeah. All right, guys, that is it for today. Thank you so much for the session, and I really like this evil dolphin. So I will see you guys. Oh, we have a cool workshop that we're going to run in September. I think it's September 15th and 16th. I'm going to run it twice. So it's going to be really good, like an overview of learning life drawing. And I've been working really hard on it, and we're also going to take a look at this new course that we've been building, which is I'm really, really excited about. So I hope to see you guys at those sessions. All right, guys, thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.